Oh, I think we're live. Hello. We might be live. I'm not looking in the right chat. I was responding. All right. So, guys, what's up? Welcome back to the Redirect podcast. I know I didn't do my typical intro, but I was responding to some stuff. So, we're here, episode 5 of season 2 of the Redirect podcast. As always, I am joined by LSM. How you doing, brother?
Doing good. How about you?
Doing all right. And I'm joined by Max. How you doing, brother?
What up? What up?
And coming in 4 o'clock, we have Stevie once again coming through. How you doing, brother?
I'm pretty
He
sure you're
is
muted, Stevie.
Yeah, he's so muted. Scuff
Nice, nice.
start.
Well, I'm
Scuff
glad to
start.
be back.
Scuff start. We love it. All right,
Of
guys.
course.
Today we're live. Today, we said this last week, but it's a special episode live. These episodes are predominantly driven by your questions. So if you've got anything you want us to talk about, put them in chat. We don't have too many topics today, so we've got a lot more time to talk about what you guys want us to talk about. But we do have a few topics of our own, and let's jump right into it. So the very first thing that we were going to talk about today was going to be Mars Reddit org ranking. And maybe Mike, you can pull those up for us here as long as it's working. So Mar does these. Didn't ping in the news server. Apparently, sometimes it's a little buggy, it's a little freaky, a little crazy. But so he put these out and he had adjusted them and he had said, these are my org list rankings from best to worst, that kind of thing. So we can go ahead and talk about them because I think you guys all have the link. In first place, he's got the Cobras org. He says as a whole, it continues to impress. They didn't lose a single game across 4 teams. The Vipers are the only team with a loss, and it came against the Trojans, who are still undefeated. So what do you guys think? Fair for Cobra? I mean, here's the thing for me for the Cobras. I don't think they've played anybody of worth yet, really, like in the season. Mostly. Well, I think it's pretty impressive, right? To not drop a single game across all 4 teams in P4. I think it's pretty interesting. And what do you guys think about that number 1 ranking?
I
Uh,
agree with it personally. I mean, if you sweep a week and you've only got one loss in your org collectively, kind of got to be number one regardless of who you played because you're bound to drop games against teams you shouldn't, and they haven't yet. So that's pretty impressive.
Hmm.
Well, I mean, being part of that org, obviously, I like that. So
I agree. I agree.
yeah,
I'm surprised that I have to be the person trying to rep the Panthers org on the desk, but Cobra's org, unfortunately for me, they kind of farmed the Eagles twice to 8-0, and we haven't had the most consistent or good start as far as getting players. So I think that was kind of a free 8 games, sadly to say. So I would put Panthers number 1, but it really is. It's just flip flop, honestly.
Yeah. And yes, this is live, Chase. Again, guys, any questions you guys got, throw them in the chat. We'll be taking a look and periodically answer them or go through them or talk about them if they're a long, good topic. That said, also, I have to get your opinion later, Stevie, because people really didn't like our ranking of the of the logos. Like next time we do that, it has to be live because they were like Galaxy logos, like F tier, and they're like, you guys are crazy, and there's
I
some
got a
serious
lot of hate
group
for the
thing.
Galaxy one. I got a lot of hate for that one. I
We
was
all
surprised.
did.
I was like,
I'm
come
like,
on, guys.
it's
Like,
not that bad, like in the grand scheme of things. Now, I told you guys, but I did my pet project of I put together a list on a Google document of every single team, their current logo, and ideas for replacements for that logo. In my own time, I built one of those. It's really actually pretty interesting looking. Maybe we'll go through someday and change some of them. But back to this, I had to throw it out there because I saw it in chat, and I just knew we all received some hate for that one. So maybe next time that kind of episode will be live. So they didn't change either. The Cobras, they stayed number 1, but coming in number 2 from number 5 to number 2 this week are the Panthers, right? They continue their undefeated streak. They're 4-0 for the Panthers, major team. Bobcats come in second best, 3-1. Jaguars and Leopards sit at 2-2. Not quite the start I expected, actually, from the Jaguars, but Leopards makes sense. Max trying to be like, we're still not number 16 in that first week ranking. But what do you guys think of this one? Number 2 coming through is the org. I think that might be a little generous, mostly buoyed by the Panthers. Don't
wait,
all speak at once.
I was so confused. So no, I now just because I think this one's kind of a little. They looked at the major team and they were like, "That's end of story."
Mm,
Because I think there's a lot of teams that are kind of even with them. Like there's no team I think that deserves the number 2 spot completely. Like I think honestly the next 2 or 3, even the Whitecaps I would consider are close there if it wasn't for the fact the Whitecaps had the Eskimos, but other than that, like they all look good, I think.
Mm-hmm. What do you think?
Um, I agree with it at number 2, really. I mean, Panthers miles and away the best team in major, in my opinion, at least right now. And then Bobcats, of course, are 3-1, and then the Jaguars, they're 2-2, but their 2 losses are against the best team in Double A, and both of them were best of 5 series. So like that 2-2, I feel like comes with an asterisk. Like, is it really a 2-2? Because if they played the 2 teams that, let's say that the Cobras Double A affiliate played, no shade to ULSM, but there's a really good chance that those are wins instead of losses. They just had to play the Mustangs, of course. And then the
Mhm.
Leopards, probably like in relativity, the like lowest performing team in the org. We're still top 8 in power rankings. We're still an above average team. If that's your worst team, I'd say you're looking pretty good with the other 3 looking so hot. So yeah, I agree with them at number 2. I think they get that edge because of the Panthers, like we were talking about.
Mhm. What do you think, Stevie?
Yeah, I think they have a good argument to be number one. So number two isn't really an
Mhm.
argument for me. It fits.
Mhm. Yeah, especially jumping up from number 5. I definitely don't think they were a number 5 org, coming into this week too. And I think you're right. Like this, I think that's why for me, like I said, the Cobras. I think this week is actually going to be one of their bigger tests. I know they play the Pirates org, who we'll talk about it in a second, is number 3, right? So they finally get some quality games in there. A lot of undefeated teams or closely defeated teams that they're playing. So I think to the Panthers' credit to your major thing, I think you're right that the Panthers right now are the best team. I think that in a lot of ways though is because they are the only team that is really come together. They knew exactly who their roster wanted to be. They're always there. They show up. Their team is there. They're playing good every night. Like all the rest of the teams, it's actually kind of interesting. Feel in flux, right? Bulls, who knows what's happening with them this season? You thought they'd be great, and they're just falling apart. Ryan doesn't show up most of the time. Whatever. Pirates, you played the worst Pirates roster. Spartans are, finally getting back into it now that they have their team coming back through, right? So in a lot of ways, the Panthers, every team that could give them a good fight, right, that isn't a bottom 16 team, had something going on and didn't, right? And so still, though, I think the Panthers are best. Like I said, I said this in Major Chat. If they play, so we played against them with Insanity, Deluxe, and Gatman, and if they play that team and they play like how they played that day, nobody beats them. They, in my opinion, they'll do what the Bulls could not last season and go undefeated. That said, if they have an off day though, you gotta wonder about this team, or if they play a really good on team at that moment. So I'm excited to see really where their major team goes. But going to number 3, right? The Pirates org. They were number 2. They dropped down to number 3. I think that's valid. Wranglers stay perfect through week 2. They're 4-0. We're 3-1 on the Pirates. With the Cobras actually tonight, so that's going to be a big test for us. And the Raiders at 2-2, Bandits at 2-2 as well. I think this is fair, if not a little generous. I definitely think our major team is really good. Wranglers are doing really good, but obviously we just went through a big rebuild with the Raiders. You getting Ritzy, and you drop Surge, and you drop Caramel, and Bandits are doing this sort of the same stuff. They're figuring stuff out. So I think it's pretty generous, but I can't say I totally disagree with this number 3 ranking.
Mm, I would I would drop them just a little bit. I think, in all honesty, just from experience against them, the Spartan org should be a little higher because really I think the one thing that's putting the Pirates as higher they are is the fact that the Wranglers are undefeated. But I mean, for the Spartans org, I don't know if they're undefeated or yeah, if they are. The Trojans, a AAA team, and I think that should show more than a single A team being undefeated.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Max, take it with
this
you.
Oh, go
Go
ahead, Stevie.
I was
go
gonna say
ahead.
this like 3 through like 6, 7 is all gonna kind of be like super subjective, and it's really hard to look at because they're all gonna have like 2 to 3 teams that are really good, and they're gonna have that one team that you're like about, and so it's really hard. It depends like what you value. If you value major, AAA, double A, single A. So like Pirates, for example, their sketchiest team is probably AAA, but they've made steps to fix that going forward.
Mm-hmm.
They're like trades, and I think they just picked up Spiff and all. Um, so yeah, this came out before that, but this like 3 through 6 is feels like really interchangeable to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with Stevie. Particularly 3 and 4, I think the Pirates and the Storms could stand to move down a little bit because um in the Pirates org, for example, I know the Bandits and the Raiders are going through some roster flux right now, so we don't really know exactly what those teams are, despite their success and their records. So I think due to that, I think it's reasonable to maybe slide them down a little bit and give another team the tiebreaker that has like a consistent, confident look moving forward. But I don't think it's unreasonable to have them at 3. The Wranglers are arguably the best team in A. I think the Pirates are a top 5 team, and then I think the Raiders and the Bandits are both potential playoff teams. So that consistency in the org, I think, is what brings them to 3 reasonably. But I would probably put them closer to 5 or 6.
I do think this was somewhat buoyed by some of the fantasy rankings because I know like Rec off the Pirates is number 1 in major fantasy and stuff like that. So some of that might have come into play too, as Mar was making these sort of ideas of like, well, a lot of these players are top of the top in fantasy, so they've got a lot of potential and that kind of thing as an org. So moving on to the next one though, you've got the Storm org, right? Number 4, week 1, they're still number 4 now. Thunder lose their perfect record in week 2, but the Tempest continues to be unstoppable in A League. I don't think that's true. I think they are currently. Storm and Lightning sitting well in their division at 2 and 2. I think this one is more generous than any of the ones we've looked at so far. I don't think the Storm are looking like a good team in major. Lightning aren't really looking like a good team either at the moment. Thunder, we'll talk about Thunder here in a minute. Actually, this is a perfect time. Let's just go ahead and talk about it. This is a perfect time to do this as we talk about the Storm org here at number 4. Obviously, the Thunder imploded. You had Naturalis quit. He went on playing, and then he left the or the league, and then T-Man decides he doesn't want to stay on the roster without him. So he makes a roster move, and many people called him the slippery snake, right? I mean, they're like, you built this team and now you abandoned it. And you said we aren't good. Da, 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 da. What'd you guys think of that move to get out of that team? The Naturalis leave, then T-Man. And how do you think that positions the Thunder going forward?
Um, it sucks. I get that for the team, but for T-Man, it's probably one of the better decisions because he's a player that needs someone like Naturalis to hold him together because Naturalis was like a very defensive-minded player, and T-Man just was not. So I think him going to Tundra where he's gonna get to play with a player like Mar, like I have a feeling they're just gonna destroy AAA at this point. Him and Mar, and then I think Hijinks is their third, and they're gonna destroy AAA. I think the only one they need to watch out for is the Trojans.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Stevie, what do you think?
Uh, it is a little bit snaky, but this is exactly why like he kind of wanted to drop GM. I mean, he was gonna have less time too, but he wanted to play the free agent market a little more. So he gets an org, builds a team, and then that situation becomes unprofitable. So he's not tied to the org anymore. So he just goes to the next best situation. I you can't really fault him for it, in my opinion. There's no point in really wasting. I say wasting the season, but there's no point in like not exploring better options, especially when why you originally went there is no longer why you're there. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, the current team, I really have no idea how they're gonna be. Uh, they beat us on stream, but again, that doesn't really say much for them.
Mm-hmm. Well, Max, what do you think about this one?
Yeah, I think this is another org that should probably move down a couple spots. Overall, they're doing well. Tempest are looking really good. Another A team that's potentially the best team in the league. But like we were talking about the Thunder, the roster's in flux. We don't know what's going to go on there. So I think they should probably move down a couple spots and give other orgs the edge. In terms of the snakiness, I mean, it's really just where you stand on that issue. What would you do in that situation? If I'm
Mm-hmm.
unhappy somewhere, then I'm going to try and get out. So I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Maybe some things could have been changed in the handling of the situation, but in terms of the action on its own, it's depends on the way you're looking at it, really.
Yeah, I didn't really have a problem with him leaving if, you lose your friend in Naturalis and then you're like, okay, well, I want to go team with other people. And then, I think the most of the issues from that came from the fact he didn't say anything to his team. He didn't, like he didn't even comment on it until he posted the duck gif, right? And so they were like really frustrated, just trying to figure out why he left. Maybe they felt it was really personal, right? Like he just didn't like them. He thought they were a bad player, etc. So I think that's where you got some more of the contention from that. But I don't think leaving was a big deal. I mean, he just sort of wanted to go where he wanted to go, and they ended up making the trade. I do think though I wanted to put the Trojans v Tundra on stream. Mar, as much as he complains about stream, didn't seem to think he could do that. So fortunately, we won't get that. But I'm curious to see now how this team performs. Everybody's like, "Team man, that team's going to be great, going to be unstoppable." Well, this is their test, right? They get him in there. Does he enhance the roster? Does he hurt the roster? Well, this is how we would find out. So we'll get to really pay attention to that match result going forward in the week. But like I said, I think Storm probably should go down a little, not much. I mean, I still think they're a good org, particularly in lower P4. But in the current moment, I just don't think they're a number 4 org moving forward. And I did see the question in chat, guys. So for you guys, if you guys didn't see it, just to think about this as we continue to move through this, we'll answer it after. Who is the worst undefeated team currently in the RLPC? Think about that. There's only a few. I think there's 4 or 5 in P4, and then two, I think, in independent. So you guys take a look. I looked through it already. I think I got my answer, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So number 5, coming in number 5 is the Spartans org. They were number 7 week 1. They move up 2 slots to number 5. Trojans obviously still being undefeated in AAA. They do face Tundra, as I said, who are undefeated. So that's going to be a really key match and a really exciting one. I'm just sad we couldn't get it on stream. The Warriors come in at 3-1, and the Spartans follow at 2-2. I feel really bad for the Warriors. I keep having to remove them from stream, even though I want to see them because of their opponents and different stuff like that. So the Spartans fall at 2-2. Titans are struggling in A-League and are 1-3. I had predicted them to lose, I think, again this week. Win one, lose one, I think. So what do you guys think? I mean, number 5, I think it's fair enough. Trojans definitely buoy that org. Warriors are good though, and are helping keep them up there. Spartans were a little disappointing with the way they started the season. I really thought they'd come out strong. Obviously, they had a really poor preseason, but it seems like they're finally starting to figure some stuff out. Titans, I don't think that's going to be a roster that we're looking at playoffs moving forward.
Yeah, I don't think the Titans will do good. Um, Moving on up, the Warriors, we are their only loss. And when we played them, they were extremely good. Like they were fast and everything. And I think there's only going to be a handful of AA teams that can take them down. And going up again, of course, the Trojans. I mean, not much to say about that. Most people think they're going to be in the finals for sure, playoffs. And then the Spartans, as you said, it is disappointing. They were in the playoffs last season and they made finals, and I was hoping to see that again, but we haven't, and I'm hoping they fix it. But if
Mhm.
they do, and even now with the Warriors and the Trojans, I agree with number 5 for them.
Well, Spartans are still on track too, though, to make playoffs. There's enough teams right now in major that just are forfeiting or throwing or not showing up or whatever. That right now, even though they're holding at the mid tier, that mid tier is going to make playoffs. So we'll see what they can do going forward. And I still think they're turning it around. But Max, what do you think of this? You think this is a fair ranking for the Spartans?
Uh, yeah, I think it is. I think due to the dominance of the Trojans in AAA, I think they deserve this spot. If not, they could go a little higher. But the Titans, I am not a fan of. I think that is going to be the team in the org that really holds them back. They just made a trade, I know that, and they're like working on some things, but I don't like the direction that team is heading in. And also the major team, not really a fan of the makeup of that team, but the AA and AAA teams are looking to be really strong. AA team likely top 5, and then I think the Trojans right now are undeniably the best team in AAA. They've yet to been proven wrong. So I'd say they deserve the spot. Um, Albeit I think that AAA title for the Trojans, of them being the best team, is worth a little bit less with the Tundra getting a lot better recently, and going to challenge them. But nonetheless, I think they do deserve their spot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I
What do you think, Stu?
pretty much completely agree with Max. The only thing really holding this org back from being like super high, like top 3, is the Titans. And then if the Spartans can get it together going forward, they'll definitely get some good arguments for them to be pushed there, even with the Titans underperforming.
Mm-hmm. Like I said, I had them beating one team, but definitely not not most teams for the Titans. All right. So moving on to number 6, you have the Whitecaps org. They were ranked number 8 week 1, and here in week 2, they are now 6th. Tundra is still perfect through week 2, obviously. Now we're going to get to decide once again, Trojans or Tundra, who are the better team. I still think those are going to be not necessarily the two teams you'll see in championships, because I think they're on the same side of the conference, so that's actually impossible. It would be, to me, though, like a preview of the best of AAA championship right now. When these two play, I think would be like a championship style match. So they face the Trojans. Whitecaps and Avalanche are both 2-2, struggling, and I know there was some drama. I think it was with the Avalanche between them and the Bobcats org. Yeah, it could have been the Whitecaps, but I think it's the Avalanche. They're both 2-2, and Eskimos are 1-3, and a super disappointment to me because I thought they'd be a top tier team coming into the season, and they are just not. I honestly think this is generous for the Whitecaps. I think the Whitecaps org should be about number 9.
Yeah, this is definitely one, in my opinion, that's influxed by the idea of having one really good team with the it just slipped my mind. Their AAA team, Tundra. With Tundra doing as well as they have, because I mean the Whitecaps, they're 2-2, they're top of their division, but that entire division's 2-2 except one 0-4 team. So, but yeah, the Tundra doing well. Avalanche, they're iffy. I haven't got to play them, so I don't know. They're 2-2, third in their division, so we'll have to see. And then the Eskimos just fell apart because of the fact that there is their okay. DXL was on that team as comm, and without him, that team really just became nothing. Like they had to scramble to get players, and it was just whoever they could get, not who they wanted. So I
Mm-hmm.
think really Tundra is the only good team in that org right now.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, Max?
Yeah, I agree. I think I don't like the Whitecaps, the major team. And I definitely don't like the Whitecaps A affiliate team. I don't think they're good, but I think the Double A team is okay. I agree. The Triple A team is carrying the cause here. Like compared to a couple teams around them, the other orgs just have better records. I think they're getting carried by one really good team, and I don't think that's fair. I agree. I think they should be 8 or 9, but they're pretty good org so
Mhm.
far.
Stevie, what do you think?
I think they actually probably do deserve this sixth spot because 6 through it looks like 11 is all like either 500, a game above, or a game below 500 as like a cumulative org record. So I'd say the best team out of like all those orgs would probably be the Tundra. So you get Tundra, and then you have like 3 other org teams that aren't like terrible and will be like middle of the pack and compete for playoffs. I think it probably gets them to that sixth spot actually.
Mm. I do think, though, you're for this ranking, you're talking about potential, right? Like, do these teams have the potential to be better? And that's why I don't like them at number 6. I think the Tundra, right, have the potential to go to finals of AAA, but I think the rest of these teams don't have the potential to move through. Maybe they'll make playoffs. Eskimos, I don't think will in the current form, but I don't think the other two will make it very far through playoffs if they make it there at all. So I think that's why I'm a little fixated. I see you guys in chat. Yes, we are live. So any questions you guys got, ask us in chat, and we will discuss them here on the desk. If we will talk about Indy. So this particular list that Mar made has nothing to do with Indy. That said, we will talk about Indy because we always try to cover everything if we can. To go through and make sure everybody's included. But if you have any specific Indy questions, again, put those in chat and we can discuss them as a topic or simply answer them depending on the style of question. Before we move on, though, to number 7 here, since we've given a little time to think about it, and I think this is going to be hateful for you, LSM, for the editing, but I think I want to do this before we forget about it. To go back to the question of worst undefeated team currently in the RLPC. Let's start with you, Max. Who's it going to be for you?
The worst undefeated team in RLPC.
Mm-hmm.
I am probably gonna have to go with the Wizards and ND. Um, just because I don't know too much about the team. It's no shade to any players in the team, especially Neutrino. I'm a really big fan of Neutrino. Um, but I just don't really know much about the team, and I don't know how much their wins are worth. So I'd say for right now, because of all the undefeated teams I'm aware of, I'm really confident in all of them, and I think they're really good. But I didn't know this team was undefeated, and I don't know a lot about them. So That's why I think they are the worst.
Mhm. I so I think they don't stay undefeated, the Wizards, but I don't think they're the worst. In my opinion, I was really deciding between the Rattlers and the Pythons, and I think for me it's gonna have to be the Rattlers. Right? You're 4-0, but you're a -8 goal differential. I mean, your stats are not good across the board. It looks like you'd played some mid to low tier teams. You got a few stats, and even then, you only barely hung in there and got the 4-0. So for me, it's got to be the Rattlers. I've got to be the weakest, the one I expect to drop first, and their undefeated record. Stevie, let's go with you. What do you think, brother?
I'm gonna throw it to a different indie team. I'm gonna say the Beavers. Uh, I think they're really
Okay.
good actually, but I don't think they're like 8-0 good. I don't think they can replicate this. And their first four games on the schedule have been a little light on the competition. You got Scorpions, Cyclones, Dragons, Centurions. That's like no teams on my top 8 at all.
Hmm. Yeah, it's fair. It's fair. I think they're a good team, but we'll have to see if they can remain so, when they get some competition. And LSM coming to you last, brother. What do you think?
I'm gonna have
Half
to
of your
go with
teams are the ones that are
Python.
4-0. So
I'm gonna have to go with the Panthers. JK, JK, it's a joke. No,
mm,
in all seriousness, I would have to say the Beavers. I think I agree with Stevie on that one. And
mm,
just looking through the list, there's really no other teams that like I look at and I'm like, yeah, you should lose this week.
mhm. So I do
So
think that too for the Beavers. One thing I've noticed looking at their stats is I still think they're a good team. I got a lot of friends on that team, but I think that they are one of the rare cases on RLPC where like a single individual sort of hard carrying the team. I think Raid is really if they didn't have him, I think that team would be more of a mid tier team. So, they're an interesting case. So I can see totally why you guys argue that. But that's the answer to your question, Chase, for us. But I'm excited to see how that changes, right? Who's going to be the one to drop off? Most team I can't remember the last time a team, anybody except not even the Samurai actually did it, went completely 18-0, no losses at all for them. I know Bulls were what, 17-1 last season or something like that.
16-2.
16-2, right.
I think the closest was season 13 Titans when Soares was an A. They went 17-1.
Yeah, but Samurai did too. Samurai went 17 and
Uh,
1
I didn't even know that.
no, last season. Was it last season or season 4? I think it was
No,
last
no, no.
season.
I
Two
think it was
seasons
it was the
ago.
season before when Blue was in.
Right, right. But
Or
they still were tied there. I remember us talking about that. So it'd be interesting to see if we get our first 18-0 team. Could the Panthers be that team? We'll find out. All right, back to the list though, back to the ranking, back to what we were talking about. And again, guys, any questions you got, throw them in chat. We'll answer them. Because after we talk about this and a little bit about Indy, I mean, that's pretty much all we got unless you guys ask us your questions. So, number 7, the Hawks org. They were number 13 week 1. So a huge jump for these guys. The Hawks org as a whole, drastic jump, up 6 places. They're the only team not with a 500 record or better, or the Owls, which is kind of interesting. There was a lot of fanfare for the Owls preseason. They're like, yo, we're the best. Had them on first game of the stream. They crush it. They were like, we're the best, and then they fell off from there. Vultures and Cardinals both sit at 3-1. Now, this is a interesting case, and I think they should be definitely above the Whitecaps because for me, both the Cardinals and the Vultures are top tier contenders in their respective leagues. So, yeah, the Owls definitely dragged them down and are having a disappointing performance compared to what they had expected going forward. But the Hawks are also not that good. So definitely buoyed by that mid tier. Still think they're above the Whitecaps, who only have one good team. But Vultures and Cardinals definitely top tier teams in their respective leagues.
yeah, I mean, okay, the Cardinals, I don't know enough about to really say. I'm pretty sure they're gonna be good. Like the only team above them is the Rattlers, and I don't know how long the Rattlers are actually gonna last. So, and then for their second team, the Vultures, like I'm actually kind of scared of this team. This is one of the three teams that I think will be able to contend with the Mustangs ourselves, and then I'd probably say the other team is the Jaguars. And then like they're going up. I mean, the Owls. I think the Owls really hold them down. And
Hmm.
then for the
So the
Hawks, I think
Hawks, they're 1-3.
yeah, I think it's the fact that I don't know if Daffy has played much yet.
He
I've
hasn't.
I'm just going off of what people tell me. People are saying that when Daffy starts playing, they're winning,
He hasn't played
and
a single game. He was going to play versus the Ducks, and of course, the Ducks no showed on stream. So that's sort of the answer to that question.
yeah, I think Daffy starts playing, they go up. From what I've been told, I don't know if it's true or not though. So we'll have to
No,
see on that.
I heard the same. Yeah, does he show up? I don't know his schedule availability issues at the moment.
Yeah.
Stevie, what do you think? Or no, go
Yeah,
ahead, Elsa. I'm sorry, I didn't want
No,
to
I was
say
done.
anything. Okay, yeah, Stevie.
Yeah, I think you could actually sweep the Hawks Whitecaps. The Vultures are like the powerhouse of that org. Their only
Mhm.
loss is actually like without starters or like a starter or two also. So they'll definitely be a powerhouse. And then yeah, the Cardinals and A, and then the Hawks are actually 2-2. So if Daffy comes back, they could shoot up real quick and start going on a little win streak right there in major. And then
Mm.
the Owls, um, they don't have to do anything, and they could probably raise in the order rankings anyway with the other three teams.
I thought they were 1-3. Oh, that must have been there was a Sheets error earlier that I saw where they were like 2-3. So I guess maybe it.
I gave them a win and a loss on the
Yeah.
game,
Okay,
but
that's why I saw that. Okay, so 2-2, yeah, and actually not bad, right? They can take themselves out of that hole, particularly if Daffy plays. Max, what do you think about this team?
I don't like them being this high, actually. I like the Vultures. I think they're good, but I don't think that they're a contender right now in Double A. At least like an undeniable contender. They definitely have their flaws and their weaknesses. Um, the Cardinals, I don't know how they're 3-1. But that team actually just got blown up and like a bunch of pieces got moved around because the team wasn't good. I think they just had a pretty easy schedule, and that's why they're 3-1. So that's a completely new roster, and if that's a benefit, that's yet to be unseen. But I think the Hawks are actually going to be really good if Daffy plays, like we're saying.
Mm.
But and for the purposes of these rankings, I don't really like banking on a hypothetical. So I'm gonna say I would actually move this org down to like 10th or something, and have a couple others take their spot.
Yeah, and this is what we were talking about with the Panthers, right? All their players show up. We know who they are. They're a good team when they come out and show up. But what I was talking about, that flexibility in major right now, Ryan not showing up, Daffy not showing up, right? These guys that are supposed to be the key component, the one you can afford that's the best player in the org or whatever, aren't showing up, right? And so that's why a lot of these teams are just sort of their Panthers are free farming because they don't show up. So that's sort of going to be interesting too. If these players do come and play, how does that change the landscape of major in its current form? I see the question from my article. So the next question we will have from the audience that we'll talk about after we talk about the Sharks org is going to be best teams from Major to Mav currently. So we'll go through each one and talk about them. Sharks org though, to get us to the halfway point here of this sheet. They were number 3 week 1. They dropped all the way to number 8. As Mar says, a hard week for the Sharks. Dolphins are 0-2. Doesn't surprise me. They're an okay team, not a great team though, particularly what we saw of them on stream. And the other teams went 1-1. You drop 5 places from last week's ranking, and the schedule doesn't get any easier. I thought it was very revealing that the Sharks ended up losing themselves. Slice didn't end up carrying, unfortunately for them, through that game. But it I still don't think they should be below the Whitecaps. I think they're about equal to the Whitecaps, though, in that they are currently struggling. I think a lot of this org's potential lies in those Sharks, though, and to see if they can bounce back after their one bad game.
All right. Give me a second. I was reading something. So starting from bottom to top again. The goals are so iffy. I've tried so hard to like, oh, this team's gonna fix it. I know the players on them. They did good last season, and they're just not doing it. So I'm skipping you for now. Barracuda is like they're like considered the middle of double A right now, like the direct middle. Like they're that determining where you belong. Like if you lose to them, undeniably you belong on the bottom half. If you beat them,
Gatekeeper team.
yeah, you can be towards the topper half. Like they're a great team, but they just don't have it like what it takes to push them high, and they don't have like they're not bad enough to go low.
Hmm.
And then after that, the Dolphins. I don't know too much about them. I mean, they look like they're doing decent. 2-2 is not horrible. It's definitely fixable at this point in the season. Um,
Hmm.
and then after that, I mean, the Sharks. Who was the team that beat them?
That is a very good question. Give me a second. I'll get the answer for you. If I'm looking through Major League Score reporting. They beat the Lions in a
Yeah,
close 3-2 contention. So Mike's probably like, we had that game. But they lose to where is it?
Spartans.
Spartans. 3-1 too. So not really close. Now, that's what I'm saying. The Spartans are back on the rise. I think QZK and Johnston finally come around, and they know what they're doing, and their roster's coming together. Still, though, 3-1 shows me that you're playing a mid to high tier team, a high tier potential team, but a mid tier team currently, and you couldn't cut the mustard. Slice couldn't carry. And this is what I was concerned about for this team. So that's, however that impacts you, that's sort of what I was thinking with them.
Yeah, it kind of changes my mind, or it makes me think a little different, but not really, just because I know the potential this Spartans team has. Like, they did amazing last season, and nothing really changed for them. So I think that if they're starting to play like last season's Spartans, then the Sharks are still high. They're still a good team. I won't count them out because even that one game, it was probably like a workload for Slice. So,
Yeah, but Mike does know.
um,
To be fair, Mike in chat did say that when they played the Lions and barely beat them 3-2, the Lions didn't have Bubbly or Tides, so two of their top tier players, particularly Tides in this case. So does that
yeah.
impact it at all either for you, or what?
Uh, it's iffy. I would say the Sharks are good where they're at. I wouldn't move them around.
Okay, okay. Stevie, what do you think of this?
Yeah, I agree. I feel like the Sharks are going to be a lock for that third playoff spot, or maybe even nah, probably not the division versus the Panthers, but
Yeah,
they
no.
probably lock up wild card one for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just feels like the Sharks are kind of carrying the heavy weight, and then the other three teams are kind of like bubble teams. Like there's no like bottom four teams, and then they're all just going to be vying for those wild card two spots across the org. So this ranking is probably fair.
Yeah. And you're right. I think that basically that win for them, no matter how it was obtained over the Lions, is huge because they are vying for those wild card slots over the Panthers, right? And so, uh, every head-to-head matchup really matters for these guys. So, unfortunate for the Lions. But Max, what do you think of this accurate rating number 8 here?
Um, no, I think they should go down a little bit. Like it really seems like almost all of the teams in this org are kind of average, I guess, which makes sense with them going at 8. But the Dolphins just went 0-2 this past week, and I really think that the Sharks are going to fall apart. Because it looks like Grambo's playing a lot, and if you're playing with Grambo, I think you're just playing with a player that doesn't belong in Major, just looking at the stats. So I don't like that team, and I think that they're going to fall off by the end of the season. So I think they should move down a couple spots.
Yeah, Grambo, he reminds me a lot of myself. We are both major players that we sort of fell in the hole between, you know, high tier AAA, but not quite major yet. So for us, this is an experience of just getting to play with better players, right? Getting to be out there and learn from these guys. Only come in really when we're needed, I think, is at least my philosophy for me. So I think that that's sort of where we both slot. Is unfortunate, a lot of players this happens to them. They get caught in the cracks of two leagues. We just happen to be caught in this one. So I think you're right though, but I think he plays because they're all friends, right? So Slice really wants to play with Grambo and Nuss, or DTR, if DTR can make it. So they're all buddies, and I think that's why he plays a lot. And they don't really care if they win or lose as much. I don't think they're just having fun with it. So power to them. Yeah. So I did see the other question that came through in chat. That was like the teams that have been underperforming and the teams that have been overperforming. That is a very broad question, so we might answer that one at the end. But if you want to maybe trim that one down for us, it'd be a little easier because I want to leave room for other people's questions. That said, let's get to the question from Ryotical, right? And we'll go through. We'll start major and go down. So we'll start with major. You say the best team, right? I think he said the best teams
Yes.
in all of them. So I mean, that's Panthers. I don't think that we really got to talk about it much. But what do you guys think?
Yeah, in the story Panthers. I mean,
Who
I
doesn't
think
have
that's the
Panthers?
easiest one to debate.
Yeah,
Panthers
yeah.
pretty clearly.
I think anyone that doesn't say that smoking some hardcore copium. Like honestly, I don't know how you would argue against that. AAA Trojans. Trojans are going to be my number one. I think that obviously, again, it'll be Trojans v Tundra. This will decide for me the current number one. I think the Trojans are better all the way around, though. I think that Tundra have specific elements that are really good, and now that they picked up T-Man, they look like a really good, solid, altogether roster. But until I know how that team performs, I think the Trojans are tried and true champions for me right now.
I'm sort of on the same way. Like, I really want to pick Tundra here, but there's no like sort of proof of how they're doing yet. So next week might change my mind, but for now it's the Trojans.
Yeah, I'm picking Trojans. Even if they lose to Tundra, I'm still picking Trojans because it's a regular season game. Um, until they prove me wrong, basically. But I think that they'll just cruise in the playoffs, and they're definitely the number one team.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the Trojans have done nothing to say that they're not the best team in AAA. So for another team to be considered by that, I think they would have to do a lot to prove that they are. So the Tundra have not made that jump yet to be definitively. So I think the edge goes to the Trojans because they've been there and they've done nothing but be really good. So it's really hard to take that away from them. So yeah, I mean, plus 35 goal differential, undefeated. They're unmatched.
Yeah. And Geo, so we are talking about the org ranking, so how your org stacks up, and also taking audience questions. This is currently an audience question of who's the best from major to Mav for each respective league. But if you guys have got any questions, once again, we're talking about the org ranking in the interim while there are no questions. So if you got any, throw them in chat. We'll answer them or we'll talk about them, that kind of thing. That said, it was put in chat. The P Shooter's not going to play against the Tundra. Does that impact these Trojans? I think so, right? Because you played with him most of the time. So he's more comfortable. You know what you're going to get with him, right? And so that might throw these guys off a little bit, but I still don't think enough. To me, if the Tundra win, Moore has to hard carry. I think Moore has to step up to a level that he so far has not had to throughout AAA, his matches so far. But I think if he can do that, they definitely stand a chance of taking this one. So I'm excited for the matchup. And again, I wish it was on stream, but I still think Trojans are number one. Moving to AA. I'll start us off again. Strongest team. I'm going to throw a lot of people for a loop, and I'm going to say the Vulture. In their current form, I think the Vultures are a little bit of a dark horse sleeper pick for like finals for me.
Uh, it's so iffy. I don't think so, just because I know that there's still some problems with it. So I'm gonna have to go Mustangs. Mustangs are definitely the best. They should be the other 4-0 team besides ours, and they're not because of some issues with accounts against the Inferno. So they won that game, but it got counted as an FF. So I'm gonna say Mustangs.
They won that game barely though, 3-2 on stream, close match, went in the buzzer too, which is why I mean you barely won against a 1-3 team who admittedly have had a lot of close calls, but
Yeah, I agree, but I still think Mustangs are better than us. And then I would put us second because I think we can beat the Vultures.
Okay.
I was hoping y'all would all say Mustangs, and then I could say Vultures, but you beat me to the Vultures.
We're on the same
Uh,
wavelength, dude. It's the
yeah, I guess
bird.
so. Um, I feel like Double A is the closest league of all of these because
Mhm.
I feel like you can make a lot of arguments for who's the top in here, but I think I have to give it to the Vultures right now.
Yeah. Like at one point I even considered the Pythons, right? But again, it's sort of the same question of who have they really played and who are they going to be going forward that I think is sort of keeping me from that. So I think you're right. Like probably the most contested division. That said, Max, what do you think?
I'm with Mustangs. Even though that game against the Inferno was close, it wasn't their main roster. They had their sub playing, and then they did use a pull down, albeit, but they kind of lose that chemistry from a really successful team, and they still won. They should be 4-0. So I think it's Mustangs still, especially considering they beat the Jaguars twice. Um, but again, I don't like this Vultures pick. I think that they're maybe a top 5 team. They just hit open nets, man. That's all they do, which is really good to beat bad teams. But once you go against good teams, there's not going to be that many open nets. So I like the Vultures. I think they're a good team. I think they're a practical lock for the playoffs, but I don't think they're a championship contender.
Yeah. See, it's just really I don't know because as we talked about, they're all close. You'd expect a lot from the Jaguars, and they're underperforming. I mean, just all kinds of stuff like that. That I think Warriors. We didn't even talk about them, but I think they're pretty much to me, they should take their conference and then move to finals just based off their conference in the current form, right? Like I don't know, maybe the Bandits could keep up with them. Other than that, I really don't see anyone in the course conference that could come through and take them or dethrone them unless they just fall apart, right? So, I mean, it all depends on what we mean by best, and so I think that's why we have such contention. But still, we've had equal Mustangs and Vultures, and so all that remains is for them to divide themselves. I saw Prisma and chat go. I saw your response, TV. Falcons are going to take it all the way. Look, Prisma. I'm gonna be blunt, okay? I'm not usually blunt, but I'm gonna be blunt. I put the Falcons on stream, I think 3 times, a couple times were replacements. That was enough for the season. They consistently disappointed me the most out of almost any team I've played. I mean, come on. Come on.
Relatable.
Come on. So, yeah, I don't think they're best bird org. Unfortunately, big sad Pepe, but yeah, they're just not doing well. Okay, moving on to A. This is a difficult one, but I think I have to go with what you guys told me earlier. I'm not as familiar with A, but I think Wranglers probably are going to be my number one in single A currently.
Uh, That's a rough one for me also. It's so iffy. You have 3 4-0 teams, and then like there's some teams that are sort of in contestants. I'm probably just gonna switch it up and go against you. I'll say the Tempest. I think the Tempest has a decent roster that as long as they do good, they'll be able to do something.
Okay. Stevie, what do you think?
I am also gonna say Tempest. I think my A team, despite being 1-3, is actually pretty good. And I watched some of those games when they played Tempest, and it was not pretty. So I think that if Tempest play like that all season, they're gonna be really good.
Okay. Max, what do you think? We're on a set here.
Tempest. Yeah, I think the Tempest are the best team in A right now. I think a couple teams are close, but they've been
Wait a
the
minute.
only.
Were you not the
Hmm?
guy that said I want to say like 20 minutes ago that the Wranglers are the
I
uncontested
said they
best
were. I
team in
said
A?
no. I said they were arguably the best team in A because they were 4-0. You could make an argument for it, but I think that argument's wrong. I think the Tempest are better.
Okay, so I'm the only one that believes in chasing the boys. I got it. Okay. Okay. Well, we'll have to see, right? I mean, these guys are so close in their stats that if they play, and I think they might, I definitely would put that on stream because that's going to be an incredible matchup, I would hope. So, okay. So we had 3 votes for Tempest and one for Wranglers. All right. So moving down to Indy, right? This one again is interesting because as we talked about with the Beavers, right? Have they played anybody of worth? Are they deserving of like the number 1 team? This is a difficult one for me. I don't want to go first. I don't want to go first. Stevie, I want to start with you this time. You go ahead.
Okay. I feel like for Indy and Mav, there's only one correct answer in each. And the correct answer for Indy is Admirals. Uh, I feel like Galaxy was an underrated team, but that stream game did not look pretty. And the Admirals are just absolutely peaking on every player. Is having an all-star caliber season, so I really think
Why are the
it's on
Admirals
them to
3 and
lose
0
at
on
this
here?
point.
Is that a
The
sheep
stream
bug?
game is a process, so the Galaxy actually
Oh,
have 1 and
okay.
2 only.
Okay. Quite interesting pick. Max, what do you think?
For Indy, I agree with Stevie. Undoubtedly, it's the Admirals. Just they've looked like the best so far. They use their cap space well. I think they're a really good team.
Okay. Okay. And what do you think, LSM?
I'm gonna go with the Admirals also. And then quick question, bro, Stevie, do you have a cat in your room or something? I swear I saw
Yeah,
like a tail in the left hand of your screen.
yeah, she's probably coming in and out.
I was so confused. I just saw like a really high tail, and I was like, "Huh?" Right?
Not
No,
Stevie's tail. You didn't know.
no, I
Uh,
think it's gonna be the Admirals though for Indy.
okay. So we have a lot of Admirals. Again, I'm still torn. I think the Wizards are a good team. I think the Beavers are a good team. I like the Admirals, but my throw out pick, and I want to ask, right? I would say Wildcats, but they disappointed me on that one loss. I can't go with them as to rule at all anymore. Rhinos. What do we think about the Rhinos? Because that was my
Maybe
first thought when we asked this question, and then I'm like, but does that make sense?
maybe a top 5 team. I think they'll compete for playoffs, but I don't think they're in championship conversation right now.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like they're definitely top 4 conversation, but I feel like the Admirals are on another tier right now.
Okay. Okay.
I'll say top 4 also, but after last season, okay. After what I saw a team last season, the Thrashers and Indy do, I will never count out an independent team. Like they all have a chance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the interesting thing about the Rhinos is that the way they have to play their roster is different from most teams. You don't just want the top 3 players on your team. It looks like they want Kachow, Mays, and Carpins, and I saw Carpins in the chat saying he didn't play on their one loss. That said, though, I do think there is something to be said for strength of roster all the way around, particularly when you can't show up. So I think that I can't. I want to disagree with you guys. The Admirals are almost there for me. I but I don't think they're fully there for me. Just their stats don't look incredible. I just don't know. But none of the rest of them do either. So I I don't know. I guess I'll throw my lot in with you guys for the Admirals in the current moment. I think a surprisingly good team could be the Grizzlies if they decide to pick it up, but I don't know yet. I don't know. This is a really tough one for me to choose here in Indy on who the best team is. But I'll agree with you guys, Admirals for now at least until the Beavers prove themselves against a really good team. Okay, so last and not least, we have Maverick. Now I know Ryotic asked this question and he wanted us to say the Tides. I do think they're looking strong, right? Their only loss comes after a forced forfeit for an unregistered account, I want to say, or an illegal sub or something like that. I think it was illegal sub actually. Um, but I also, I like Stevie's Pandas. I think the Macaws actually are going to be my pick, though. I think they have really impressed me. They are one of the more surprising turnaround teams, and I think they're really strong right now.
I'm a pick. Okay, I'm gonna pick Pandas, and that's because we have the one and only certified Viber Stevie. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, in all honesty, I think there's in Mav especially. There's quite a few teams that are in contentions. Um, the Tides are definitely one, but that's a team that I really think it's the whole hype is around one player. It's around Ryotical, and I'm not gonna let one player define a team. That's what we're doing with the Sharks, and I mean the Sharks still have their moments, so I'm
Mhm.
probably gonna go with the Terriers in all honesty. I think the Terriers have it. I think they're
They
doing
have
good
a
and they're holding it up.
I think they have an awful schedule this week, though. That's why I didn't choose them. I'm almost
Well,
certain they have like a bad schedule this week.
if they went out this season or the rest of these few weeks, like I could be right. So who knows?
Mm, okay. Okay. Look, Steve, we're gonna come to you last. Let's go to Max next. What do you
All
think,
right.
Max?
So apparently the meme pick was Pandas, but I'm all on board with the Pandas. I'm with LSM. I don't like this Tides hype. I don't believe in it. I think it's nonsense. Macaws or yeah, that no way. They lost to the Raptors. Albeit the Raptors, they switched up their roster. They're a much better team now. Give me Pandas 100%. Watch. They're so slept on. Pandas are winning it all on map.
Hey, I'm not disagreeing. I think I said I basically wanted to pick the Pandas, but I went for the Macaws for the interesting pick. But I definitely think Stevie's team's got potential. And Stevie himself, what do you think, brother? I know you're not going to say your team. I know
Yeah,
you, but
I can't really say my team, but I feel like it has to be the Tides. I feel like all the other teams that can compete are a little too inconsistent or aren't quite where I thought they would be. Um, the Yetis only lost us to us, which I feel like is an acceptable loss, and they didn't look like what I thought they would, which could just be a bad game. So I'm definitely not counting them out, and I think they definitely can compete against the Tides. The Terriers are a little too inconsistent for me to put up there. They showed that last season where they started 7-1 and then missed playoffs, or they made it in and got first rounded. I don't exactly remember, but they just didn't keep through it the whole season. And then the Macaws, one loss is to the Raptors, and that's not a good loss
Mhm.
when we're talking like this kind of top team like conversation. So
Yeah.
I have to pick Tides with the only loss being that forfeit loss.
I do know though that a lot of teams that are particularly high tier always seem to drop a game, or usually seem to drop a game against that low tier team. It's like it happened in AAA last season, but it's like that team you just don't expect them to be that bad, and so you read them differently and stuff like that. So But I think you're right. It's not a quality loss. And probably what it is I'm smoking the Titan on fire copium from last season. One hit and it just sticks with you for life. You know what I'm saying? And always the toucans, always the macaws. I will say, so we've had some different picks on the desk, which is good to see. I will say though that, and I want to ask you guys this question. Speaking of the copium, some of the solar players have been coming out like, "Yo, we're totally underrated. We've changed things up. We're ready to go. We're going to beat the Pandas. We're going to take the Steel Division." What do you guys think of that?
Okay. These I think that roster changes are good, and they definitely will adjust a lot, and maybe it works out in the long run. But I think when you instantly make a roster change and you're like, "Hey, we're gonna win it all," that sort of makes me think that they're not so sure themselves. So I want to see if the Pandas win. Well, that answers my question, but I don't know yet. I don't have any faith in them right now.
Okay, okay.
I think the Solar team is good. The changes definitely helped a lot. I think that there will be a big cluster in that conference for the wild card and division spot.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna be a lot messier than it was last season because originally we thought that that conference was gonna be the powerhouse conference, but it ended up flipping to the other side with Macaws, Raptors, and Mages. But I think it's gonna stay on this side this season, uh, and they could potentially be a top team but miss playoffs. That side of the conference is really looking like it's going to be very very cutthroat, and all those division games are gonna really matter. Um, yeah.
Yeah. And I think I saw in Mav chat they're watching. They're like, "There ain't no way you Macaws and your Pandas are the number one team. It's all about the Tides." And I'm still like, bro, like Tides remind me a whole lot. Heat. I'm from AAA last season of like, yo, we the best. We win these games, but if they lose one game, how are they going to come out? Right. That's still where I think they haven't answered. Um, Also, if they have a team that knows how to play defense against them. Uh, I will say though, to answer the question from earlier, to round this out, when somebody was asking, most like or the team that was overvalued, bro, captains have been just the saddest disappointment. I remember so many people like, yo, this is like a top tier team. They're like top four. You're sleeping on the captains, and now they're 1-3, bottom of their division. Now, admittedly, they're in a good division, but still, uh, that's a whole yikes team for me, fam.
Uh,
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
to give the captains some credit, to give them some credit. Their schedule has been a little tough, and Legends only played 2 series, so they haven't been starter v starter playing these games. Uh, but the 1-3 right now definitely sucks for them in that conference. But that's what I'm saying. I think this whole conference is absolutely stacked, and like the Hornets won the division last season, and they're 1-3. So I think it'll get very interesting these next like 2-3 weeks. And I think the captains are poised for a comeback too.
Poised for a comeback. Well, we'll see, right? I think the Otters have overperformed a lot of expectations too, so credit to them. And I think that's why the captains maybe are lower than what we had expected. Okay, so once again, guys, any questions you got, throw them in chat. So we'll go back to the Reddit post till we get those. Coming in at number 9 to go back to this is the Lions org. They were number 11. They jump up 2 spots. Cougars look like one of the best A teams according to Mar after the second week of games. Lions and Tigers are both 2-2, while the Lynx struggle and are 1-3. I know Gallo was like, "Yo, Lynx have been shafted." Lions have had some really tough games come up early for them. Tigers as well have, and unfortunately, they also have been having issues getting on stream against their opponents. Cougars are looking strong, not as strong as we had thought in preseason. I think they're like a top 5 team, but not number 1, like some people had argued. So I think this is a good justified ranking. Could probably go up a little higher, maybe. I think the loss versus the Sharks hurts the Lions, and I think that's why they're at number 9. So that's why I think it's a pretty fair rating for them so far. I know obviously Mike works on a lot of those teams and stuff, so I think this team has a lot of potential. But I think for me at least, this is a good ranking for them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to mess with this one much. It's self-explanatory. I think all the teams are sort of even there. Cougars probably being the only top team. Tigers are definitely like a mid team. Probably I'd probably put them at like 6 or something on a power ranking. Or I meant Lions. Tigers they're iffy. I'd put them in the middle though. I'd say A. And then Lynx, I don't think they're recovering. knowing the people on that roster, I think they'll probably do good, but I don't see them like recovering and making playoffs. So I agree with that org ranking.
Okay.
I think it's reasonable. I actually really like the Lions. I think they're closer to a top 5 team in major than people are giving them credit for. Um, I love you, Kanga, but I actually don't think the Cougars are that good. I don't think that they're a top 8 team. Like they're top 8, maybe top 6, but I don't think they're crazy good in A. And then I think the Lynx are definitely struggling. They're at the bottom of AA, but then the Tigers are about average. So I'd say it's reasonable. Maybe they could move down a couple spots though.
Okay.
I think they're fine right here. I think the 2-2 on lines doesn't really show how good they actually are. And I think the Cougars are actually pretty good. If you ever do some top stats and you do demos or anything, you'll see King on there. That man is a menace on the pitch. And I think that'll probably throw some teams off, especially in the regular season. So I think that they'll get a lot more games than maybe a playoff setting would entail. But after the Dragons' performance last season with Kinga, don't want to bet against them either. So
Yeah. And Anonymous, the answer to your question, I was trying to type in my computer, other computer is lagging. Cobras were number 1 on the org list right here. So that's why you don't see it, because we're scrolled down. I'm gonna go ahead and step in for Mike, and Mike, just do the obvious for Mike here, that Lions are number 1. Okay, Lions are number 1 all time. There you go, Mike. I did it for you. No problem. Got you out here. Yeah, so I think it's fair. Like I said, it could be dropped, could be raised. They're a team poised either on the edge of greatness or on the edge of disappointing season, I think, is where these guys are. And I know we're still early in the season, but still, I think that's where they are for themselves. Okay, number 10, Bulls org. Number 6, week 1, they dropped to number 10, so you drop down, 4 slots. While the Bulls and the Bulldogs are both at 1 and 3. The Mustangs and the Stallions are making up for it. Mustangs are 3 and 1, and the Stallions are 2 and 2. I think this is generous. I think the Bulls org is number 13. They are definitely some of the most disappointing in terms of the expectations that we had for a lot of their teams. Bulls in particular, I mean, honestly, at this point, drop Ryan. If he's not going to show up, then you need a new person to play with Soares before Soares has a mental breakdown. So because it's just not working. It just ain't. So drop Ryan if you're not going to get him to play. Bulldogs, I've worked with them. Others have worked with them. I think they're starting to turn it around. I think their biggest issue right now is they are stuck in their current play style without being able to change it a ton. So they've got some stuff to work on. Getting that win, no matter how it was gotten, is good for them. Mustangs, as you guys said, looking good. Stallions, disappointing, actually. I think that 2 and 2 is not good. It's not a good sign for them. That's why I think the Bulls should go down to like 13th.
Yeah, I think the Mustangs are the one that gives them a lot of shine. They're considered by a lot the best team in AA. So that's really what holds them up. The Bulls, I mean, not having they're not recreating the season they had last season for sure, but I don't think that I think it's getting later and later, and the longer they wait, they're just gonna fall out of any sort of hope. So yeah, I think and then Bulldogs, I mean, that talks for itself. They've just been down bad, so I I have no clue what's gonna happen for them, but I agree with you. I think they should drop to like 12th maybe.
Mm-hmm. Uh, really quick before we go to you guys, I see some stuff in chat about people talking about, oh well, I got a message danger, got a message this, the other. We had this discussion. I'm not quite sure how to say this, but we had this discussion. If you guys have any issues with the league, you were probably better off either coming to myself, LSM, or Bdong. Garth as well. If you need like mod support, he's good to go to. But we are, I can't speak for LSM, but at least I'm usually one of the faster guys to get to you. I can't answer everything. Obviously, I'm media team only, so I can refer you to people. But I think I know I've seen that sentiment around, and I wanted to put that out there that a lot of people are like, well, management is, unapproachable, or they just don't respond very quickly, the name and role requests, all that kind of stuff. First of all, name and role requests, they take a while because they have to get approved, right, by administration and stuff like that. So don't DM us if you put a request in and 5 minutes later it isn't changed. But if you have issues or you need some help, I think myself at least and LSM I know is pretty active. So if you guys need something, try to come to us first because I know Danger started to want to turn this to one of the things that he's concerned about is the divide between management and players that we as management we don't really feel exists, but we've been told exists some. So he's been trying to like if you have a problem, go to that specific manager, and because he doesn't own the league, so he can't literally do everything for you over us. He would have to come to us anyways. So just want to put that out there to maybe help you guys out to some availability and stuff like that. Again, I love to help you guys. I really try to be present in the community. If you need any assistance or ping people that can, LSM, I don't want to speak for you, but if you feel the same, then come to us if you got those
Yeah,
kind of questions. If you feel like you're scared to talk to Danger, we're goofy. Who cares, right?
yeah, for sure. And I mean, a lot of the players in this league, I mean, I know there's some older, but a lot of them are probably more around my age, and like I'm chill most of the time. Just to be honest, just don't do anything that you shouldn't, and we're fine. Like I don't mind talking to y'all, and I don't mind helping y'all with stuff. So
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. So back to you, Stevie and Max. I apologize. I just saw that in chat. I wanted to put that out there. So what do you guys think of this Bullsorg currently?
I think
Uh,
it's. Oh, go ahead.
okay. The 10 is probably completely reasonable. We're starting to get to the point where no org is gonna have like a real standout big team, and the Mustangs are that team for the Bulls that kind of locked them into this like 10, barely 9, 11 spot. Um, the Stallions being 2-2 kind of helps them a bit, but the Bulldogs bring him down, and then the Bulls being 1-3 bring him down. And I feel like the Bulls, I don't know, like on paper, I feel like that team should be pretty good, but it just hasn't come together yet. So that's the biggest question mark on the org for me is can that team turn it around? And I'm not really sure either.
Mm-hmm. Max, what do you think?
Um, I think that 10 is very reasonable for the team right now, but I think that this org is going to be on the up and up. Um, I don't know that the Bulls will figure it out, but I think there's a really good chance that they do. The Bulldogs, they just made a roster change, got rid of Roasty Toasty, and Zero went playing, so I think that's going to be a big positive for them, and they might get out of their slump. Mustangs, like we talked about, probably the best team in Double A, and then I think the Stallions will continue to be slightly above average in A. So I think the org's going to be on the up and up. It just relies on the Bulls and the Bulldogs achieving their potential. I think at least one of them will.
Mm-hmm. So the answer to your question in chat, who was asking about Storm, Storm are ranked number 4, pretty accurate. Maybe could go down a slot or two, but on the whole, it's pretty good. Storm looking okay. Definitely buoyed by the Thunder and the Tempest. In regards to this, however, the Bulls org, question for you guys. I came off and said, right, Bulls, get rid of Ryan if you can't play him. But that's a good question. A lot of major teams, as we talked about, Daffy and those, have been having issues, fielding their best of the line top roster. Do you guys think it's viable to just say, well, drop that player and pick up a new one? Do you think because of the landscape of major that you're looking at like 2K players and those are not exactly in high abundance that's not feasible? What do you guys think these guys should do for teams like the Bulls or the Ducks that are or not necessarily the Ducks, but the Bulls that are struggling to field that full top tier roster?
I mean, th- the Ducks are iffy. It's like so the Ducks themselves, like starting with Major, it's like I don't know enough about him to really give a full opinion on him, except the fact that what are they? Are they 1-3 or 2-2 since the league standing?
The Bulls, I think they're 1-3.
Wait, we're still on Bulls. I thought you said Ducks.
The Ducks.
No, no,
Ducks
no,
are
no,
one
no,
of
no.
three.
Yes.
I'm asking you about whether the Bulls should restructure their
I heard Ducks.
team,
No,
much as the rest of
I think
major.
Ryan needs to show up. If Ryan doesn't show up, then yes, get rid of him, restructure, yada yada yada. If Ryan shows up, I think Bulls become an insta like top 6 team. Because I'm very very high in my opinion the fact that Ryan and Source together will do good things. But if that doesn't happen, well, the Bulls just need to figure out soon. Because if it gets too late, I don't think like there's nothing they can really do about it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Max,
I,
Stevie. Mm-hmm.
I feel like Major is a lot similar to Maverick in the same respect of like the quality of players in like the gap of MMR. So, for example, it's really hard to replace a 1900 sometimes. When you don't have another 1900 you trust like play at that level. So, like in Maverick, for example, you find two 1200s that work together, and then you find the best 1000 MMR player that plays like a 1200, and that's kind of your recipe for success. I feel like it's the same way in Major, where you try and find two like 1850s, 1900s, and then the best 1700 you could find, and that's kind of the recipe for success. So when you have like your 1900 or like your kind of star not showing up or not playing well, that's kind of like where the big fluctuation in like the quality of your play starts to show. So replacing him probably isn't as easy as going and find a 1900, uh, but if he does show up, I do agree with LSM that I feel like they should be able to do great things, right? Because when you
Mhm.
look at it, like that they have the formula, you know.
Yeah, they have a really good team, built. It's just, can they field that team? And for the answer has been no. And you're right. I think because even in Maverick or any really league except for Major, in my opinion, you can always build a team and one player could be off, but you simply can outplay your opponents or chase or something might go your way. In Major, the problem with that is the teams that you're going to be playing. It's not like you can hit quadruple flip resets over them because you're just better mechanically. Everybody can do that, right? So the next question becomes, do you know how to stop that? How's your consistency? And those are the problems that you run into when you're fielding like all a low tier roster. You can't field your best player because your best player might be able to bail you out when, Kiro double flip resets and then passes to Gatman. And you're like, well, how am I supposed to, whatever. But then he doesn't show. Then what are you going to get from that? So I think it's an interesting question, interesting take. And Max, I want to give you your due. What do you think? Do you think the Bulls? Do you think they can still wait on Ryan? Do you think Major as a whole, there's anybody to even pick from? Because a lot of teams are suffering from this. What do you think?
Um, I think you got to take the risk and try and figure it out. I don't think there's anybody in free agency right now that you can pick up that is going to replace the potential that you have there. And going for anything less than a championship is kind of worthless. So you might as well
Mhm.
stick it out and hope that it works out.
Okay. Okay. So, getting on to the next one. And again, guys, ask your questions in chat. We are kind of getting towards the end here. So, if you don't ask them by the end of this list, we'll probably just go ahead and end the episode. So, try to ask what you can because we are running low on time. Either way, we'll probably be done about 8:15, depending. I know a lot of us have stuff to go do tonight. Obviously, it's match night. Next you have the Ducks org. I think they should be number 16. They come up from number 9. They're 11th, so they drop a few. The Geese are holding it together. It's all the celebrating they can do. According to Mar, Herons are 2-2. Ducks and Pelicans are 1-3. This org, in my opinion, suffered from Flip not being here, so it wasn't being run, and they captains that were chosen didn't do well. Obviously, Geese struggled, but that was a roster issue. They fixed that. They're looking better. Herons, they're looking okay. You pick up Irony that looks better. Pelicans not looking good. They just made some roster moves. Actually, they just one of their players, Vitamin Z, just requested to go non-playing, I believe. Ducks. I mean, what can I say? They didn't show up. They got upset that I banned the org for 2 weeks. I didn't think I'd have to use that punishment, but here we are. They just refused to show up. They thought it was funny. They were in chat 45 minutes later, as always. I don't really get it. So maybe a crackdown is in order for this org to get better. I just don't think they are looking very good right now. That's why I would put them at number 16.
Uh, it's iffy. I would say they're probably like 14, just because I think that there's like two orgs I would say are lower than them, and it's basically all the same reasons you have. I mean, all the teams are just imploding on themselves. Like, there's not one team of theirs that's actually standing out, really, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Max, what do you think, brother?
Uh, I think that this org should probably go lower. I'll start with A. I think the Pelicans are not a good team in A. I think the Herons are okay in Double A, and then I think the Geese are okay in Triple A, maybe looking a little bit better than okay. But I'm particularly sickened with the Major roster. You don't have a team that can play with each other, and then you bail on a stream game. You don't show up. I mean, just like look at there's literally 12 players in your org that you could have sub for you. Let's go to major free agents. There's currently 35 major free agents, and you can't find one person to go in and play for you. Two people if you need it. Are you kidding me? that just shows me that you don't care about the game. So you're obviously going to be awful, and this team's going to be awful, and they're not going to win many more games. So yeah, the big thumbs down for this Oregon. The people, the captains who are in charge there. I don't think you're going to be successful, and those type of decisions, those types of actions are really sickening for a community league like this. So yeah, I don't like that. In fact, I think um, if it wasn't for a couple orgs being severely awful, I think that 16 would be in order, but I'd go with about 14 for them.
Yeah. It's disappointing because I know there was like an attempt to reschedule, but it was like the day before. And I mean, I'd put this again, I schedule the streams 3 weeks out in advance on purpose. I ping every GM as that was requested, because I think that's a good idea too, to make sure everybody knows what's going on. And it's unfortunate I couldn't reschedule them, but it's the day before. And I told you 2 to 3 days. I'm very flexible. And also it was the level of communication that came through. Had they said to me, well, we got a player who's got a funeral he has to go to. It's an emergency. We just sent a new guy. Can you try to work with us? I'd work with them up to the point of the match. Still, though, I can't reschedule that. It's a day out. I'm sorry. That's just the rule. It's unfair to other teams. Instead, it was just, can we reschedule? No. Okay. That was it. So just unfortunate, right? And it's unfortunate that the org suffered from that action. But again, we're out here trying to make this the best it can be. I know Major hates me right now. Obviously, after the Cobra and the Duck stuff, that's fine. It's your prerogative. I'm out here trying to run a league, and I sleep better at night knowing that if I put any of those people that like to complain but do nothing in my position, they couldn't do it. So that's okay. You don't have to like me. I'm out here to make this the best league for everybody, not just you. So okay, but Ducks, I agree. Let's take them down. Flames org, 14 week one, they jumped 2 spots to number 12. Interesting. So the Flames org has 2 teams that are 2-2, and other two at 1-3. The Inferno look to be a strong in preseason, but have not done well in regular season. While they are 1-3 after 2 weeks of games. So the Inferno, I actually think this org could go up a little bit, only because I think the Inferno are better than 1-3. Every time we've seen them, it has been a close loss. Like they are right there. They just quite can't figure out the winning formula. The stream game was the same. Beating the Mustangs, they take that dub, but they obviously lost. They were just one down. I think, yeah, they belong down here in the bottom 6, but I think that they're looking okay. I think their Flames roster, I've heard Virus is really good, but they're still losing, so I don't know if he's not playing or what's going on with them. So I think this org is unfortunately struggling right now. Maybe some roster moves are in order.
Yeah. I know recently Inferno, the actual Inferno roster got a replacement player, so we'll have to see how they do after that. Um, their Heat roster, it's iffy. They're not the worst, but they're also not even. I wouldn't say they're close to being the best. Like on paper, they have a good roster, but it's just I don't think it's gonna work out well for them. And then after that, I mean the Flames. I'm pretty sure this is definitely um a really good major roster. Virus isn't even considered the best. It would be John Waite, and he's a good player. Like they feel highly and they think they're gonna be able to do it, but I have to see them play against a team that I consider good. So I haven't seen that yet. And then after that, I mean the Embers. That's definitely the most overrated team because of a whole issue that happened, but we won't go into details there.
Yeah, the only thing about the Flames is so I played John Wheat. He is a really good player, but from what I understand, if he doesn't have Virus, that team doesn't win. It just doesn't, right? Chubik can't keep up. He's much like me. He's just currently in the current form, cannot keep up at majors, so they struggle without him. But I've heard that when Virus is there with John Wade, this is a really good, like easily top 10 team. So I'm curious about that. But Stevie, what do you think?
Yeah, I feel like this org is like primed for a come up. Like I feel like the Flames when everyone's playing is a good team. Uh, the Heat are the complete wild card in this org for me. I'm not sure what Heat you're gonna get. Um, the Inferno, I have trust in Trots to eventually get there, but it hasn't been pretty for the beginning. And then the Embers have been underperforming compared to expectations, so you figure they're gonna start stringing together some wins soon. So uh, 12, 13, reasonable for them. Would not be surprised if we see them at 7 in the coming weeks, though.
Okay. And Max, what do you think?
I agree. Um, I think that it is very reasonable because the org is doing bad right now. but I wouldn't be surprised if they're top 3 by the end of the season. All of these rosters have potential. Um, I think could be a contender, AA could be, and then AAA, like we're talking about a wild card. But I mean, if things go correctly, they could be really good. But yeah, I think it's reasonable for now.
Yeah. I think it's fair, right? At least and then they need to figure something out across their teams. Okay, so we are like 10 minutes away from ending this, unfortunately. So we got to speed run this, boys. So we're gonna go through this really quickly. Maybe see if we can do Indy Mav, just like it's just one because it's obviously the orgs, and then just wrapper there. And again, guys, I do apologize. I keep saying I'll take your questions and answer them, and then I don't put out the form. So by sometime tonight, I should in our RLPC discussion put out the form for you guys to fill out for community questions, and I'll put it in our. It is already in our Discord for this podcast. So if you guys are interested in the Discord, let me know as well, and I can invite you to that. So speed running this Eagles org number 13. They were number 10. They go down 3 spots. Eagles are 2-2. All the rest of the teams are 1-3, and they're under 500. They're struggling after being AA champions. I know, Stevie, these are your boys. Eagles as a major team look okay, mid tier. The rest of them, I think that I agree. Right now, they're currently underperforming their expectation.
Yeah, I'm just gonna agree with that one. I can't really mess with it, and the rosters kind of speak for themselves.
Yeah.
Uh,
Um, unbiased opinion. Okay. Uh, I think the Eagles are actually a lot better than the 2-2 record. We drew Cobras twice, which is very unfortunate at the beginning. We're gonna stay away from talking about Osprey. Um, we're we're gonna talk about Falcons in the context of if we can ever play 3 starters, I will be so excited. I will not care what their record is. If we
You'll
could
be in
get
chat
3
giving away
starters, like
subs. You'll be like, I'm ready. Let's go.
oh man, we will go ecstatic. And I think the 1-3 record on Ravens uh, uh isn't really doesn't really show her. I think they're probably the second best team behind Eagles. And then they drew Rattlers twice in the opener, and those both went to 5. So I think they kind of suffered from the schedule being hard at the beginning,
Mhm.
but I think they'll be on the come up going forward. So I think we could like peak around that like 8 spot currently with how it's set up, but 13 I could agree with for now.
Okay. Yeah. I'm excited to see it because you're right. So it's, for every team that has an easy schedule, another one has a really hard one. So that does exist. And Max, what do you think about this Eagles org?
I don't think that they could go any higher than 13, but I think that they could certainly go lower. I think the Eagles are maybe slightly above average in major. I think the Ravens are pretty average in major, but then in A, but the AA and AAA teams I think they're right where they belong. At least bad right now.
Okay. All right. So number 14, and again, honestly, I don't think we're gonna have time to do Indian Mav. So I can make a promise though that next episode we will have an Indian Mav list for you guys that we will go through. I just think because we all have matches to get to and warm ups and stuff like that. So I do apologize for that. I am sorry. I know I said I would do it. But again, we've been running an hour and a half now already. So next episode 100% we'll do indie org rankings. So really quick to finish this out, Ascension org, they're number 14, they were number 15, so they go up a slot. Ascension are 1-2 teams in the P4 orgs, have not won a game yet across P4. Pulsars went 0-2 this week, but Entropy picked up their first win of the season. Well, I mean, Ascension, how do you never mind, we knew Ascension wouldn't be good. We were proven right, yay, whatever. Honestly, I think actually this might be the number 16 for me. Because expectations were low, but they somehow got lower.
It's probably my number 15, just because the Pulsars did start out 2-0, and then unfortunate they lost both last week, but I think they'll fix it. They were definitely a good team when we played them, and I think that I'm hoping. Uh, I really like Blind. He's a good player, and I hope that Entropy roster gets better, because on paper that should be like a top 8 roster, but it's just they're not doing as they should.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, Stevie?
Yeah, I feel like Ascension's kind of similar to my org, where they have 2 teams that are like, oof, don't want to look at, and then you have 2 teams that uh, have potential and probably can be on the up and up. So 14's probably good for them also.
Okay, and Max, what do you think, brother?
Somehow the Ascension are almost as bad as their logo. They're not
Ooh.
quite as bad, but yeah, we called it before the season that that team would be awful. I think the Pulsars are okay, and I think that the Genesis are actually decent, and then I think the Entropy will be good. So I think you could flip flop as Ascension and Eagles maybe, but like I think the Ascension are too bad, so they get like that negative edge with the Eagles. I
Yeah.
think it's very reasonable.
Said they had to change their roster because it was a bottom tier roster last season. It's still a bottom tier roster this season, so it's unfortunate, but they're doing what they're gonna do. Number 15, Kings Org. Number 12, week one, they dropped down 3 slots to 15. They're 1-3 across the board for the Kings Org. Every team in P4. Kings have won a game. Haven't won a game. This is the first game of the season, and the rest of the org has struggled just like them. Kings is very simple. Every time Kings comes up, everybody goes, "That's a freeload game. That's a game you take." The reason is Kings roster is built with 3 AAA players. It's like if you put me, Chubik, and Grambo on the team. We might have some fun with it. We just unfortunately couldn't keep up against like a Panthers team or even a mid-tier major team. You have mostly AAA players or AAA rated players on that team. It's not built very well. I think they deserve this place.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't know much about their all in all records. I know the Dukes are an iffy team, and yeah, I think this org probably belongs where they're at.
Okay, Stevie, what do you think?
I agree.
Simple
Uh,
enough.
yeah, I also agree. I don't think, um, I don't think there's a bright spot in this org, to be honest with you.
Hmm. All right. Well, finally, we get to the number 16, who also, in my opinion, take the most overhyped award, the most disappointing award, the one team we thought would be pretty good, and they currently are not, is the Lumberjacks award. They were number 16 in week one, they're number 16 in week two. As Mar says, sadly, not much improvement for them after week two. They get 2 more wins as an org, but still sit at the bottom of the org ranking list for the second week in a row. He doesn't give much context, but I mean, their teams are just not doing well across the board. I thought Lumberjacks would be a little better than they currently are. They are not. Again, you talk about there are other teams, Pioneers, maybe some hope there. Voyagers not looking so hot. Miners, really big disappointment to me personally, as I thought they'd be a really good team. And they're currently 1-3 with a -4 differential. So, yeah, just disappointing. I think all the way around, they were all teams that had a lot of potential, still sort of do, but it just is unrealized. And I'm not really sure the issue with these guys.
Yeah, I mean, Lumberjacks were extremely good last season, but they still had Chickens, who a 2K player was good. I don't think he hard carried, but they were a playoff team last season, and now without Chickens, and I don't even know what other moves they made. They're just not that good.
Uh,
So so Stevie, you
Steve,
robot.
what?
Yeah, yeah. You roboted really hard. You there, brother?
Oh,
Oh, you're good. You're
yeah.
good now. You're good.
Okay.
Okay. Lumberjacks just they're iffy now, but after that, the Pioneers really explained themselves. I think that was a roster built just kind of quickly and rushed, and they didn't get who they wanted. Voyagers, so we tried the double A power rankings tried so long to convince that they were decent, and they're just trying to prove them wrong, I guess, because when we played them, we 3-1 them, and I thought they were a good team. I was like, yeah, they're gonna have comes consistent, and then they haven't. And then the Miners, I don't know enough about, but 1-3, yeah, I can agree with 16th for them.
Okay. All right, Steve, what do you think?
Um, maybe the miners is the saving grace of this org, but this definitely doesn't look pretty. They Yeah, only stringing together 3 wins is pretty rough. And I know personally the Eagles org played them, so they got swept by a also low tier org. So it definitely doesn't look good either when you add like the context of their schedule. Um, but yeah, maybe a turnaround can happen, but it's definitely not looking pretty right now.
And Max, to round us out, brother, what do you think?
I think that the Lumberjacks org is right where they belong in. Considering the amount of FAs that we have right now in P4, I think they might want to take a look at that list.
Yeah. They might need to make some moves. Obviously, J Mac himself was suspended for 4 games, so he finally is getting to play. Maybe that helps boost some of these teams. We'll have to see. That is the list and our critique of it from Mar this week. Guys, and again, I do apologize about the Indian Mav. We will lead off next episode with that. I promise. We will talk about that. That said, however, thank you guys for listening, for watching, whatever you're doing. I will put that full amount of LPC discussion today, and it will be in our Discord. So again, let me know if you want to join that. That said, however, so thank you for coming through, listening, watching. This will be on Spotify after we are done here. I'll try to get it uploaded probably by tomorrow. I have to download it through Twitch and all that kind of stuff. Thank you for joining us for the special live episode. Next time might be live as well, or probably pre-recorded. Actually, I think is what we're going to do. So pre-recorded, record that on Thursday. Not a lot will change, but we'll talk about what we can. So thank you guys for listening, for watching, whatever you guys are doing. We will see you guys next time.